2 weeks ago, I was one of the lucky people invited by Panasonic to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Lumix cameras in Osaka, Japan. And the awesomeness already started on the journey there, because I got to fly on the iconic Boeing 747 again. I even caught a glimpse of Mount Fuji, which was absolutely epic, as you can see here. In today's video, I want to share with you what really happened in Osaka, show you some behind the scenes moments, and give you my thoughts on this camera here, the Lumix L10. The good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak. But let's start at the beginning. Hello guys, welcome to Japan. Right now I'm in Osaka. I can't believe it because actually a few days ago, 3 days ago, I was in India and now I'm here in Japan. I mean, the difference cannot be bigger than that. So you might ask yourself, why am I here in this beautiful hotel room in Osaka? Well, it's very simple, because Lumix, they invited me to come here for an event. And the event is to celebrate 25 years of Lumix cameras. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure why they invited me, because yes, I use Lumix cameras and right now, I mean for a while, this one here, the S5 II, but mainly for video. So for my photography, as you might know, this is a bit too big and a bit too clunky, so of course I will not use it. So for my photography, I'm shooting a Leica Q3. So I don't know why they asked me to come here. I have a suspicion maybe they will introduce a new camera. I mean, why would they invite so many people just to celebrate 25 years? I mean, you have to celebrate 25 years with a bang. And to me, that means having a new camera. The next morning, it was time for the press conference to finally find out why we had been invited. And yes, I was seriously hyped. My imagination was running wild. To be honest, I was secretly hoping for something similar to my Leica Q3. But with expectations that high, there was also a massive chance for disappointment. And actually the writing was already on the wall, quite literally, but none of us realized it at the time. Let's see what happens. There's a lot of familiar faces here, but man, I don't know. I prefer to do my own thing just for myself. But of course, I'm very grateful that I can be here and that Panasonic gave me the opportunity to come here. It's amazing. So Panasonic asked us not to film the presentation, but honestly, it felt like only a handful of people actually honored that request. But then reality hit, and we finally found out why we were invited to Osaka. Right guys, I'm back from the presentation, and here it is, the new Lumix L10. So first I was a little bit hesitant because it's like a Deluxe 8, but it's better than that. It has a swivel screen, has the big battery from all the Lumix cameras, and especially in this limited titanium version, it looks gorgeous, so clean, because there's no logo, nothing on the front. So the only branding you will find is on the back, and I really like it. But of course, it's not all perfect. I mean, there are a few things I wish that were included in this camera here, and also there was one thing that I discovered while using it that is a bit strange, but more on that later. Then it was finally time to take out the camera for some shooting. I had to ruin the image quality immediately by putting on a mist filter. By the way, the camera uses a 43mm filter thread, which isn't very common. All the mist filters in that size in the local camera shops were sold out 2 days later. I wonder why. I rigged up the L10 with my Godox IT32, which is the perfect match because this camera can sync at any speed because of the leaf shutter. This is one of the main features of the camera, I would say, at least for me. So I went out for some shooting, but something did not feel right. At first I thought I had messed something up, but I hadn't. I get back to that later because I had to do some digging to actually find out what was really going on. Later that evening after dinner, I went back out for some street photography, and I'm really glad I did. I came across these gentlemen who had clearly had a bit too much to drink, but they were absolutely hilarious. Alright guys, today is a little bit off, or this morning is a little bit day off. I was shooting last night, which was great, and I was putting out my short that I wanted to do, and now I'm going to close to Osaka station because I want to buy some Kit Kat because they have so many insane kinds of Kit Kat here, so I want to give some of my friends some Kit Kat when I go back home. And you have to check this out because this is so Japanese. There's a shuttle bus. There's a shuttle bus. Oh my god, I only slept like 3 hours. There's a shuttle bus going from the hotel to Osaka station. But check this out. This is look at this. All the people lined up waiting here. Oh, that's so cute. That's so Japanese. And outside you can see in the back, you can see the bus and everybody waiting here. Then I went to a shop called Don Quixote in the Umeda area, and oh boy, they had an absurd amount of Kit Kat. But just around the corner from the Hello Kitty section, things suddenly got a little more, let's say, adult. There was also some very questionable 18+ stuff that I'll probably have to blur out here. But we certainly had a good laugh in there. I mean, there's truly no place else like Japan. Let's talk a little bit more about the camera, especially now since I've watched a bunch of videos addressing the camera and hearing some of the criticism surrounding it. The funny thing is, and I think that's very common with cameras in general, most of the criticism comes from people that never even touched the camera, but I think that's pretty normal by now. Still, are some of the criticisms justified? I would say yes, at least to some degree, because there is still room for improvement here. But because I had the opportunity to attend the event and talk to some of the engineers, it became much easier to understand certain decisions Panasonic made. What I could hear a lot is people criticizing the size of the camera. They are saying this isn't really a compact camera anymore. Well, of course, it's not a Ricoh GR4, which is really tiny. But there are reasons behind the dimensions. You see, this camera is using the sensor from the GH7 and the processor from the S1 Mark II. And in order to make it work, Panasonic simply had to use a bigger battery. And that larger battery also means that this camera has a really excellent battery life. Thanks to the GH7 sensor in this camera, the photos look really good. And on top of that, the video in this is truly amazing, and I think it's pretty underrated. And on top of that, the autofocus works very well. I can still remember I was using, or I had for a while, the Lumix L10 Mark II. I don't know what it was, but it's probably like 8-9 years ago. And that camera was great, but there was one thing that I absolutely hated, and it was the autofocus, especially in video. And a smaller body would probably also mean that the camera might overheat more easily, and that is something that you definitely don't want. And a fun story here, when I was shooting the Ricoh GR4 in India, the camera overheated only after 1 hour of shooting. So I had to turn it off, let it cool down before I could continue shooting. And honestly, that sucked. So I'm quite happy with the body of the Lumix L10, but I can see why some people might prefer a smaller one, that's for sure. Another thing that I could hear frequently was the lack of IBIS in this camera, and I can understand that because the IBIS in the Lumix cameras is pretty good, and it would be nice to have IBIS in here. Instead, it's only the stabilization or in the lens, which is okay, but yeah, it's not on the same level as IBIS. However, the issue is the lens, because it's a fixed lens, sits so close to the sensor, the image circle of the lens would need to be much bigger, and that would also mean that the lens would be much bigger, so maybe double in size or something. And that is probably something that a lot of people would not appreciate. So that's the trade-off. You have a small lens, but that also means there's no IBIS in here. Speaking of the lens, the first 2 days I shot exclusively at 24mm. I almost forgot that the camera can actually zoom, something I'm simply not used to anymore. But that changed later that evening. In the afternoon, we visited this really cool library building next to the Panasonic factory, where we were given the task of painting miniature versions of the Lumix L10. And me being me, of course I already had an idea in mind. Any guesses where I got my inspirations from? In the end, I scraped my first attempt and went all in with lots of colors. Not sure how successful that was. I think I should probably stick to photography. After that, we were driven to the actual 25th anniversary event, which was really nice. There was traditional Japanese entertainment and even a tea ceremony that everyone could participate in. Even though the event was quite busy, there were still some interesting photography opportunities. And this was actually the first time I properly used the zoom lens. Now, before I show you what happened on the last day on Osaka, here are the good, the bad and the ugly things I've noticed about the Lumix L10. The camera feels very well made, even though it's fairly lightweight. Unfortunately though, it's not weather sealed, so only time will tell if dust will become an issue. Now, I'm very happy that the camera has a fully articulating screen, because that means it's pretty good for video, and that is what I'm planning to use this camera for. Not just for photos, also for video. And as you can see, the video is looking pretty good because the L10 is filming me right now. I'm filming in 5.2K, open gate 4:3, 25 frames per second, and I'm shooting in 10-bit log. What do you think? Now, holding the camera is very comfortable thanks to the larger grip, which was necessary to accommodate the larger battery. And that also helps with battery life, because on this camera it's really good. One thing I haven't heard anybody talking about is that the lens has actually very little focus breathing, which is excellent. And also, as you can see, the autofocus works hopefully very well. Have I mentioned yet that I'm really happy that Panasonic included a viewfinder in this camera, because that is something I'm really missing on my Ricoh GR4. I mean, especially in very bright and sunny environments, having a viewfinder is so much better, and I'm so glad it's in this camera. Alright, let's talk about the bad things, or rather the things I'd like to see improved on the Lumix L10. And first of all, there is no shutter angle in the camera, which would be great for video. But I'm pretty confident that Panasonic will introduce shutter angle later on through a new firmware. Now, on the photography side of things, I would love to see a proper implementation of a focus scale when using zone focusing, for instance, for street photography. Because right now, yes, there's indicators, but there's no numeric indicator, so you actually have no idea what distance you're focused at. So that would be very useful, especially for street photography. And I talked to one of the engineers about it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Panasonic will later on add this also in firmware. One thing they surely cannot add through a firmware update is the implementation of a joystick to move your AF points, because believe it or not, this camera doesn't have it. I don't understand why, because this is actually a very useful feature to have. Please keep in mind that this is still pre-production, so the firmware most likely will change until the camera is actually available to buy. However, there were not that many things that went wrong. I mean, I only had once that the camera froze up on me, so I took out the battery and everything was fine again. So that only happened once in around 10 days of using it. Now let's talk about the one real issue that I found in the Lumix L10, and it is something that I've already touched on earlier, and there was a very bizarre problem because it only happened a few times. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. And it is regarding using flash, which this camera is actually perfect for thanks to the leaf shutter, but that issue makes it a little bit more difficult using flash. But let me explain. Basically, when using one of these here flash with the Lumix L10, there's a noticeable lag, but it only happens once in a while, and especially when using the flash off camera, and even worse when stopping down the lens. Actually, that problem almost drove me crazy because I was really starting to question my abilities. But then I figured out it's not me, it's actually the camera. Unfortunately, in Osaka, there wasn't enough time to figure out what's really behind it, so I actually spent a whole day digging into the problem and figuring it out and trying to actually visualize it so it's really easy to see when it happens and when it doesn't. And also, it's the lag is just a feeling, right? So I wanted to make it visible so you can actually see the lag, because some people are more receptive to feeling a lag. For instance, it's me, but some people might not even notice it. But for me, it was so frustrating because it meant I lost so many shots because of the lag, and it was very, very frustrating. Now, to give you an idea, I put a microphone very close to the camera so you can actually hear when I'm pressing the shutter, which is the blue marker, and the red marker is when the shutter in the lens goes off. And as you can see here, the flash on top of camera. And now see what happens when I'm taking the flash off camera. So there's a massive delay. And it gets even worse when I'm stopping down the lens just slightly to f2.5. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail what the problem actually is because it would take way too long. And I don't think that is a hardware limitation, because I found a workaround and that showed me that it actually is not a problem. It's not a problem with the camera, and I think it's rather a software bug that can be fixed through a firmware update. And fingers crossed, the engineers at Panasonic HQ, they managed to do that, because this is very frustrating. Just in case the problem still exists when the camera is on sale, I will make a video and show you the exact workaround, which is actually fairly easy, but you have to know what the problem is in order to solve it. But I'm very confident that they will hopefully fix it. Like I said, if the problem still exists for some time, I will make a separate video explaining the problem and explain also my workaround for it. Hello everyone. Today is the last day here in Osaka, and we're now on the way to the Osaka castle because I haven't seen it yet, so I want to see the castle. And of course I brought the Lumix L10, which is a lovely, lovely camera, and maybe later on I will do some street photography. I actually shot way less than I thought, but in the end it was really nice to finally see Osaka Castle in person. Later that afternoon, I went on a photo walk with Felix, and it was a super relaxed walk around sunset. Osaka is such an amazing city for street photography, and I really wish I had more time there. And then the next morning, it was finally time to leave Japan. So now the plan is to use this camera a lot more in the next weeks and months, and once I gathered a lot more experience using it, I will let you know, and I will probably make a follow-up video, maybe like a proper review of the Lumix L10. By the way, from what I've heard, the pre-order numbers on this camera are through the roof. And honestly, I'm not surprised because I'm pretty sure that this camera will be a big success for Panasonic. Now, if you have any further questions regarding the Lumix L10, leave them down below in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then, auf Wiedersehen.